Welcome to Women Advancing, where the voices of world-changing women leaders gather to share their journeys, insight, hopes, and their practical how-tos in achieving their goals and making the world a better place in the process. I'm Kate Byrne, editor, and I am the lucky host for what will be an extraordinary conversation together today. We're really fortunate to be joined by Anita Sanchez. That would be Dr. Anita Sanchez. She's a powerful diversity, equity, inclusion, and culture expert. She's also the fabulous author of the book, The Four Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times for Inspiration. This last week, we had an extraordinary shift of power. And I think everyone feels the palpable sense of a reset having been pushed. And what I'd love to do is learn more from you, Anita, about how the power to forgive the unforgivable, the power of unity, the power of healing, and the power of hope can direct us to this next level of both personal and professional leadership. So with that, Anita, welcome. It's so great to be able to spend time together.
It is. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
What I'd love to know before we kind of delve into the book and the broader based conversation, share with us a little bit about how did you come to this point? How did you get to where you are? Paint a little picture of what your path was.
I'm glad you asked that because, people look at women who are leaders or transformational in the work that they do, and that's all they see. But my early childhood was a mixed thing. On one hand, beautiful. I would never trade it. Being with elders, my grandmother is Nahuatl people, which is people know more as Aztec. And so I had this wonderful, and then the Latina part of me, all this wonderful, and dreams every day. Kate, we'd wake up and we'd share dreams. So that is a part of me. And as early as age 3, I've had a recurring dream of what I was going to be when I grew up. I knew it already then. Connection, the heads and hearts of people all over the world. That's all I know, and it actually came to be. However, the other part of what I came through, and is an important part in terms of the muscles that I gained, the resilience and the compassion, is that I also had this dark secret, which early years was one of abuse. So 9 years of abuse. And then in addition, if that wasn't enough for any child or teen at that point to deal with, was the murder of my father, which brings us back in 1967, brings us right back to what we're all dealing with. But my father was race-related. He was mistaken for a black man. He was dark-skinned, who earlier had a fight with a white man, and the white man returned and killed him, thinking it was this person.
Oh my God.
So that dramatically changed my life. However, what I will say is that dream and that experience just pushed me further. It was a pull, this vision of what could be, of healing and wholeness. And not a lot of work, so I don't want to undermine that. It's a lot of work. But lo and behold, by my early 20s, I'm already working in corporate world as a consultant external, working with women all over the world. Find myself in Singapore doing visioning, women at war in countries that are at war with each other, finding the different ways to come together. And really what women are driven by, because we're driven a lot about fulfilling our dream, but we know that dream has to do with connection, relationships, community. So that just spurred me on to do many, many amazing things, including what you were talking about, writing this book, which was, if somebody had told me that economically poor young girl in Kansas City, Missouri, growing up in a whole all-black neighborhood, we're the only non-blacks, and I would never trade that either, would end up writing this book that's an international award winner that people are drawing on. And I've used for 20-some years these gifts, and from the C-suite to the living room, have found the power of that for us to really show up. And that's really what is being asked of us with this transition you were talking about. We all need to show up. But it was that vision, the dream that I had, that helped pull me through all of the heartache and the work to be done to be able to forgive, take back my wholeness. And lo and behold, by age 20s, I'm in the World YWCA Council in Singapore, facilitating women whose countries are at war with each other to have vision, to have, how do we develop these joint policies of peace and development? So my journey has been extraordinary, but I want people to understand that regardless of your circumstances, no matter how hard they were, and I'm a clear example of that, it doesn't have to stop us from becoming and contributing the gifts that we have. And that's what last week with this shift in power and all those women that came out and voted from the suburbs across different races, the Indigenous women who came out big time, that won us some states, all of the things that are happening. Georgia, oh my gosh, Stacey, I just love her.
Feels just thinking about it. And I so agree. I think, and you just touched upon it, there's this chance to shift, alchemize, right? The negative,
Yeah.
because everything's one side of the same coin, good, bad, dark, light, all that. As soon as you understand that, and one of the phrases that I always use is things happen for me, not to me. And
Yes.
when I'm able to, which is at a very young age with extraordinary grace, and I'm sure a lot of work, is essentially what you were able to do with the situation that you found yourself in. Uh,
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
And I think that will, and we'll get into a little bit about this with the forgiveness. People often think, I think when, and we'll start talking a little bit about this, but this notion of when you are forgiving someone, it's as though I think people misunderstandingly think, oh, I'm giving that as a gift to the other. Hello, it is a gift to self.
It is
You
absolutely
get
good
your
to self.
power back, you get your energy back, you get your chi back, and then you can stand in your presence and you're holistically you.
Yes. So what you're tapping on is what I found in talking to people all over the world is that there is this misperception about forgiveness. It's like, oh, I'm weak. I'm being disloyal to my group of people. That's one of those big unforgivable kind of things. Or I just forgot about it. That I'm just letting it go. No, you don't forget. What it happens is exactly what you say. I love myself enough that I will not use the energy for spending on what could not have happened in the past. Rather, I reclaim that so that I can be present in now and I can create. And it doesn't mean that you're giving up seeking even justice, but I'm going to spend my energy on correcting systems and structures that could cause the kind of harm to people individually or collectively.
Correct.
That's a big freedom. And then the next step, which people write about, not sure you have to do it, but I found, and from an Indigenous perspective, it is ultimately about forgiving also the perpetrator. That may take some time, but part of that comes also from a belief system that we are all connected. And so why wouldn't I do that? Now, this doesn't mean I'm not discerning. It doesn't mean that I'd show up and put myself in danger. No, but it just means, no, my hope is like, for example, the forgiving my perpetrator of my abuse, but also forgiving the man who murdered my father was that hopefully he got to reconcile his life before he died. He spent it in prison. But he also had a young son about my age. And what the young 13-year-old who was filled with all the pain and the loss of the murder of my father was that I realized as an adult when I'm in corporations, building relationships across race and hearing circle after circle of white people saying, not all of them, but many of them, well, my parents did teach me I was better than you and other people of color. And all that, but they were doing something different. They were trying to shed, and they were shedding it, and they're developing policies and programs that were different. And not fast enough, obviously, but still doing it. And what I realized then, Kate, was something that was so important is that summer in 1967, not only me and my 5 brothers and sisters lost our father, but that 13-year-old white boy lost his father too. And he grew up knowing his father was a murderer.
Right.
I just wish for him that his life, that I don't have to be stuck in a story that his path was only one of murder and hatred, but rather the story that I'm seeing corporations who are conscious, who are trying to shift and really impact the larger society, that no, we can be with each other. We can care about each other. We can create together. And we've been doing it, but now we need to accelerate that process in a mindful, conscious way so that we change not only the individual circumstances, but also those systems and structures that are in place that are not serving us, nor whoever is being considered the dominant. In this case, it's race, but it could we look at gender, men and women. We need to be freed, to be fully present. So it just goes on and on. Anyway, you can tell from my energy. I think this is one of the most hard, difficult times to be alive. The number of my elders, Indigenous, who are dying, our communities of color, seeing that, the inequities in terms of how this COVID and other things are. And at the same time, that is true, and I hold that. I also know that what is possible, we're all seeing what's opening up of possibility of laws changing, of a vice president. I know, isn't that amazing? And a Black Indian American who sits as vice president. I mean, and I don't take that lightly because it means change. But I know in the corporate world, when white women, it's been mainly white women, has been women of color, who move to that CEO suite, people say, oh, the work's done. No, the other forces come out just as strong. So it's not about letting go about where women and men, but it's about how do we really lift both up, figure out ways for us to work in harmony, make the changes that need to happen so that we can really thrive not only now, but for the future generations.
I beautifully put. And, nothing made me happier than seeing Kamala step up and just literally, take that she made a bid for power. She got it. And that is what it can look like, everybody. That is what it looks like. And isn't it a beautiful thing? And guess what? If she can do it, we all can. It'll look different. It may take time. And it's not necessarily, a slam dunk, easy walk in the park, but you can do it.
Yes.
And it requires that you need to do some work along with it.
Yes.
So I'm very hopeful. And I'm also going to say, there's been quite a bit of talk about, and I said this I did a quick on the channel on Women Advancing, I did a quick little blurb about Kamala and what it meant. And, so much has been said about how little girls all over the world now can come to life and they can be anything. Yes. And I'm going to say, women, you too, the little girl within you, may she now have her voice. And men and the little boys within their hearts. Everybody wins. That's the thing. It's not his, hers, yours, mine. It's ours. And I think that's where the time of Indigenous practice and that belief that, to your point, the connectivity, the regenerative, all of that is so crucial.
Well, I think it's again holding both. And I think we're in a time, all this illusion of separation, we got to let go. So we need the heart. We need to lead by the heart, but we don't leave the mind behind. We also, what you were talking about, is we need to be discerning. However, if you come from a place, from an Indigenous perspective, what I was taught, we're one hoop of life. If we're talking about the 4 different directions, we're talking about women and men, children, all of our relationships being part of that. No one's higher, no one's lower. We're all sacred. Now, in corporate world, you don't always use that word sacred because, oh my, are we going to talk religion now? I'm talking about a sacred that can be incorporated within religion, but I'm talking about broader than that. We are. But it doesn't mean we always are operating in a sacred way. So yes, be discerning. We don't want to throw that away. But when you come from that worldview, which I think more and more companies, as they move to like shareholder from stakeholder,
Yes.
are view that, wait a minute, we've been separating, like we have all these different worlds. No, we have one world. We have one earth. And when you come from that, then you can look at like, oh, I'm going to lean in and hear what they have to say. I'll do some discerning, but I'm going to lean in because there's something here for me to be aware of, including if it's just as somebody's misusing or hungry for just power rather than trying to create a place where all of us can contribute. So yeah, I think it is all a gift. And again, it's an attitude that obviously you and I share.
How do you have some thoughts about times or tips that people can sit there and think and put into practice of, okay, you know what, now is my time to lead from the field. And now I'm going to pass the baton and it's your time. And I'm going to go sit back and lead from the bench.
Yeah.
How does one do that graciously, or know when you're sort of, managing your ego so that it's like, be quiet, sit down?
Well, that's part of it. And that's part of it for, leaders and inside of businesses or just outside in society. But it's when we realize that we're connected and her success is my success. Her pain is my pain. When we begin to see that, which a George Floyd brought that forward, because that didn't go by lines of of, right or left, and that they saw, and people were horrified about something that many of us knew had been happening, but it happened in such a way we couldn't deny it. When we start seeing that the good of one is the good of all, the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and we're seeing that now with what happened a half of Earth away, that is impacting all of us to be in this conversation. We're seeing it from the climate, global warming, all just on and on. When we can just slow down. So part of the practice is slow down, because we can just get triggered and go, go, go. Just slow down. I'm not talking about doing hours of meditation, but if we could just take a breath and just really fill ourselves with gratitude for who we are, what we have, that just starts to shift within. We can see what's possible in changing things. Again, what is powerful about the gifts, which I use a lot of times for myself, first and foremost, but I see business leaders and communities leaders using these gifts, is because, again, they speak to the how you're going to be that then affect how we're going to do in the world. And so for me to lash out in a way that's only going to cause more harm doesn't make sense. But it doesn't mean inaction. Is that we're going to act, which is what we saw on Inauguration Day, the opening the arms for people who voted for this administration and those who did not. Right. That's what we're talking about. And that's what we're being asked for. And women, oh my gosh, you already know this. I love the Harvard Business Review came out with a report, that one of the reports not so long ago. And, they assessed it all. So we already know that women, national leaders who are women, they have had far less COVID deaths and all of that. But we also see, as they polled and surveyed people inside organization, women leaders came up far stronger, far more preferred to deal with crisis and that than the men. And it's not to say, men, you're bad. It's like, let's all learn. And it was about the level they were willing to engage, to be vulnerable, to listen. All of these things that we all have the capacity for, but we need to practice. And so, it's time. And so I'm just really grateful. So I want to say about, it's not pitching my book, I want to say about the elders. Because those 27 elders that brought forward the eagle prophecy, that spirit that came from all over the world, and put these 4 gifts in there, because Spirit said back in the 90s, a great winter's coming. You don't believe, trees dying, on and on. But it didn't leave, it's like the 2-leggeds have forgotten, but they can remember. And that's what we're doing. I think we're all in our different ways. It doesn't have to be this Indigenous path. It's just one way of people are asking, how do I do that? Well, there's ways to do that. And I have found using those 4 gifts. And people generally want to jump onto unity and hope and action right away. And that's okay. You can start wherever. But what they will find, whether you're a business leader or leading your family or wherever it is that you will only go so far, even though you think it's a big dream and a big, creativity or a technical evolution of something. You will get only so far. You need to do your healing and your forgiveness. When you do all this, we are intimately interconnected, all of these. When we do that, boy, what I have found is visions and images and gathering people to be able to work on these things have been much bigger. So we are whole human beings. We are human beings. And our doing gets affected by how we choose to be. And I'm, at this time, Kate, I'm sure you're the same place. I am so happy to be a woman. In spite of all the stuff that the glass ceilings, the glass cliffs, all the stuff we're still working on, I am so happy to be able to bring my fullness of my gifts and help support other women and girls to do that, because it's needed. And men are asking for that too. Look at our president. Look at who he put in the cabinet. Look at these Prop Porta.
Talk about a guy who gets it.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, I think the piece that I want to build on that you just mentioned is what people so often forget is leadership is inside out. And the reason why that healing piece is so important, especially for women often, is that whole imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Right? Where, oh my gosh, they're going to find out I'm a fake. I don't really know what I'm doing. And the truth is, if you face that demon, right, and you have a conversation with it and you say, you know what, you're right. I'm not going to know everything, but I also know people who do know other things that I don't know. So hello, who said I had to do this all by myself? That is just smart. And then what you can do is, I found that healing piece, you can enter into any situation unafraid.
Yeah.
Sure, you might be a little nervous, but there's a really thin line between fear and excitement.
Yes.
So if you're able to shift and really look at it as like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, but how exciting it is if I can give it a shot and sort of see. So share with us, would you mind walking us through really quickly the four gifts?
Yes.
I
So
would
the
love
four
that.
gifts are not a secret. Everyone already
Yeah.
has them. The key is to use them. So this eagle hoop prophecy, all these elders from all different traditions came together and they put these four gifts in there. And the promise is if you use these gifts, you will remember how to be in healthy, right relationship with yourself, with other people, with nature,
Mhm.
with everything. So the four gifts are the first is the power to forgive the unforgivable. And we just already talked about forgiveness and the misconceptions of it. But it really is a pathway to freedom, a pathway to self love. And an elder at a Sundance a year and a half ago said to me, Anita, I know you're known as a forgiveness lady, but think about this forgiveness is the passcode to your divinity.
Oh, wow.
I said, believe me, the next book I write, which I am writing one, that will be in there. The second gift is the power of unity. Unity, we know it's about, nobody does anything on their own, not even breathing. Thank you, trees. Thank you, ocean. Being able to convert the carbon and allow the oxygen. So the power of unity and what that means when we come together and able to do that. Then the third gift is the gift of the power of healing. And healing isn't a one-time event. Generally it's over and over. You go to deeper levels like, oh, like I know that little voice, the imposter, like, why are you showing up again? But you don't spiral downward and stay there. You go, oh, what am I learning now about this? To honor about myself. Okay, let's go and grab hands with others. So that gift of healing. And then the last gift, I love this gift, is the gift of the power of hope in action. Hope is an energy source. People tell you, oh, that's nothing. Let me say that in the most dire situations that I've been in or I've seen leaders be in, that hope, that energy, that there's something else that is possible is important. And so that's where I say to people, dream. And I have to name this because I just have to have, an Indigenous leader, a woman, Interior, Secretary of the Interior. This
Oh,
is the same branch that for hundreds of years, the genocide of our people here, to have her. And so some people, oh, she's going to do the same thing. No, she's not. She's not, because she remembers something. Even with the genocide, what the people forgot is that we're seeds. We're still here. And so
yes.
are you. And so what we want to do is fertilize that soil, really clean that soil so they grow for all of us. Because we're meant to all thrive for ourselves. And I have to keep saying for the future generations, because it's not ending here. We want it, all this beauty and love and creativity and all the things that we get to do. This needs to continue. And we're being called in many different ways, from two-leggeds, from Earth itself to it's time.
It's so exciting to see everybody coming at all of this change from a place of curiosity as opposed to, what I call sort of Eeyore, nah, it'll never work, etc. There's a reason why Obama put hope on his poster. For you, what does hope have to do, and you touched upon it, but maybe go a little bit deeper, for leaders and leadership?
Yes, it is such a powerful leadership tool. It is, and it's infinite because it's an energy source. It's an energy source. In spite of right now in front of you, it looks horrible, there is something more. That the illusion of it's all about pain, it's all about separation, that's an illusion. And that hope can spark that knowing that you're pulled. And so that's when we see, when we're so attracted to leaders of whatever age, when we're in these dire circumstances and somehow they just keep moving because pain pushes. When you have a vision, when you have that hope in action, it literally pulls us. The brain, we know from brain science, that's what's happening. We know that from spiritual knowing. We know that from Indigenous. This is the good medicine we all really are. And that's anyone or anything that puts in alignment the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. And we get to choose that at every moment.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm very fired up. And I really want to encourage people to buy Anita's book, Four Sacred Gifts. It's available on Amazon. It is a terrific read. And the thing that I think is also so important in this day and age is, to your point, everybody has the 4 gifts. You've
Yes,
got them.
you got them.
Set them free.
Yes, use
And,
them.
and it's not
Put up.
hard. I mean, well, I should say, keeping up with it may be a little bit different, but try it.
Try it. Try it. And because, Kate, so many people are asking, and I can only do so many interviews, and I'm passing, elders, but next month, in a couple of weeks, they'll be able to get Living the Four Sacred Gifts and an e-course that they can take on their own time, which is so important with people that, even though it looks like we're supposed to have all this time, people are busier than ever, so they can do it at their own time. But also to have people go to foursacredgifts.com, FOUR sacredgifts.com, because you can also get the song that for free, download it, that talks about a lot of the issues and messages that we were talking about during this time. But it lifts us up in another way. We need the arts, we need all of this. So please, foursacredgifts.com, and get that song and see if the course is calling to you, then consider taking that on your own time. Next month it'll be out. To be present in the fullest way as a whole human being.
I can't think of a better expression of unity at all. So with that, thank you everyone for listening. Look forward to our next conversation together. Again, Dr. Anita Sanchez, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.